give you how the scoring guideline is going to look at it, and everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this questions, and so we have a question here. So this question is like the number 7 that we're talking about, function, table, and graph. Now, in terms of specs on AP exam, they call it notation fluency. Students are going to be able to understand notation as a graph, as a table, as a function. Okay, and you guys have to know how to take a derivative or integration generically. What do you mean by generic? Just like a formal way of doing something. So we're gonna start off with first question. Now, one thing I want you to understand is this part is differentiable functions, and that's very, very important because as a function is differentiable means what? It's also continuous. So those are the things that you need to stress later, especially when you deal with the MBT. Okay, so we start with this function, and now the reason why this question is kind of hard is an evaluation. I think this part is a lot of people, you guys trick is not solid and sound. It's and the e to the 0 is 1. Stuff like that you need to know, and mainly the derivative part. And this is a very well designed question, I think. So now I'm going to go ahead and do this question. They say they only need to find slope of the line tangent. They did not ask you to find equation of tangent line. They only want a slope. So solve for slope. Okay, so let's say part A. F of x is equal to cosine of 2x. Sean, do you know what's derivative of cosine of 2x? No. There is 2 things that involve the chain rule. So be what? No. No. Times what? There we go. So that's called chain rule. Okay. Plus, well, what's derivative of this one? E to the sine of x. Darby, do you know what's?
Cosine of x, e sine of x.
So u prime. And then they just wanna, this is f of x. If you write this, you get a point. Simple as that, just 1 point.
Wait, why did you write EU? You just do E.
I meant to write ex. So then I'm gonna plug in pi.
E sine of x, right?
Oh, e sine of x. My bad. Sine of x, my bad. E pi. Now I'm gonna plug in pi sine of 2 pi times 2 plus cosine of pi e sine of pi. And that's equal to sine of 2 pi is what? 0 times 2. Go away. Cosine of pi? No. Negative 1 times e to the 0, so it'll be negative 1. So the answer is negative 1. For B, you got k of x equal to h of f of x. Now, please understand the chain rule. The first chain is right here. The second one, there's actually a third one as well, because sometimes they don't always be x inside. They can be x squared or 2x. So you do have to take a derivative of the x. In this case, it's x. What if it's 2x? What if it's 3x? What if it's x squared? What if cosine of x? That can change. So what's the derivative here? Well, start from the outside. It's like peeling the onion. You peel the first layer, and then times peel the second layer, times the peel the third layer. Does that make sense? Sean, does that make sense?
You said that sometimes it could be like x squared, but doesn't it give you x under the problem?
Yeah, so derivative of x is 1. Now, if it's the x squared is giving here, then that's going to be 2x. Because you got to do derivative of that. So it's going to be h prime. We want to find out k of pi, right? k of pi is equal to h prime f of pi times by f prime of pi. I don't need to write 1 anymore. Let's write that. So h prime f of pi. So f of pi, we're going to go back to plug in the original equation. So it's f of pi is equal to cosine of 2 times pi plus e sine of pi. Well, cosine of 2 pi is 1. Wait, this something is off. Okay, plus e to the 0 is 2. So this is 2 here. And f prime of pi. F prime I got earlier, so it's negative 1 times h prime of 2. H prime 2. Now in this case, we got a function h. Now 2 is right here. Now if I'm looking for prime, that means what? Slope. So it has going down 1, going right 3. Does that make sense? So I went ahead, saw negative 1 times negative 1 over 3, and that's equal to positive 1/3, and that's my final answer. At least, do you understand? Derivative outside, inside, right? Same thing on the other one. C. I got mx is equal to g of negative 2x times by h of x. Now remember, when you're writing out like this, make sure you write out a generic first and then plug in. Because generic is going to give you 1 point, and the plug-in is not going to give you a point. But if you do this, they don't give you a point. So make sure you do this first. And then you can strip down one step, it's fine. Now what happened is I will show you. Here is there is a chain rule. Do you see that 2-layer? And that's a problem people usually miss. And also there are 2 functions. If 2 functions multiply each other, what kind of rule I need to use? Product. So it'll be g prime of negative 2x times by negative 2 times h of x. And then plus g of negative 2x times h prime of x. Now I'm going to plug in 2. So if I plug in 2, it's going to be g prime of negative 4 times negative 2 times h of 2 plus g of negative 4 h prime of 2. What is g prime of negative 4 is? G prime of negative 4 is right here. I think it's negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 2. And h2, well, h2 is going to give you, h2 is kind of hard to figure out because this is a going down 1, right 3. So I hear if I going down 1, right 3, I'm going to have something like this. It's 1/3, right? And if I'm going to do 2 here, it's 2/3. Does that make sense? So that's going to give you 2/3. Negative 2. And then 2/3. But it's going to be negative. Wait, did I mess up something? Hold on. I messed up something. H2 is 2/3. Negative 2. And what's g of... Wait, I got extra negative 2, sorry. Right? I think. And then plus g of negative 4. G of negative 4 is 5. So it's going to be 5 times h prime of 2, which is we got before, negative 1/3. So it'd be negative 4/3 minus 5/3 equal to negative 9/3. So the answer is equal to negative 3. And if you got to here, You're very good. You got almost 7 points now out of 9. You're officially in the 5 range now. Yep. And you know what people mess up? They probably don't know what cosine of pi is. Right?
So I made that same mistake, but I got C right because since I got 1 here, so -1, and then I got K prime x was 1/3, -1/3 and 1/3. C was correct. So would I get B and C correct but A wrong, or how does that work? How does it work?
B and C wrong? Or B and C right?
I got no. I just A and B. I got the same answer, but I just flipped the minus sign.
Oh, then that's wrong. But if you have this part here, they're gonna give you 1 point. Do you have this part?
I actually got C as -3.
Oh, so okay. So here, do you have this part?
Yeah.
That's gonna give you 1 point. This only 1 point. And if you did this is 1 point. This is 1 point.
Okay.
So you will get half on each. So that's why I say it's essential to write down this step. Even though evaluate wrong, then it's fine. D.
Can you explain how you got H of here and H prime of here again?
H of 2. H of 2, you think about it, is 1/3, right? That means it's going to go down. It's going to move 1 here, but here it's going to be 1/3. And it's going to go down again, 1/3. So, because 2, so it'll be 2/3. Or you can think about y is equal to -1/3 x. That is my equation of h between 0 to 3. And you just plug in 2. Does that make sense? Got it? Okay, so the last part. Now, why is that not intermediate value theorem? Here's the reason why. Imagine that I'm a criminal. I'm a murderer. I kill Whitney. Whitney is like, why is it always me? Is it because I'm black? No.
That's exactly what
No. So let's just say, like time of death is 4:30. Whitney's time of death. But Mr. Ye comes in this room at 4 o'clock. And Mr. Ye also come in this room at 6 o'clock. But does that mean Mr. Ye kills? Mr. Ye saw what happened? We're not saying kill, but does Mr. Ye necessarily see what happened? Well, he come in at 4 o'clock, but time of death is 4:30. He might just left the room at 4 or 5, and he died at 4:30, right? So, with that being said, if you use intermediate value theorem, that you can say it went from -3 to 4, it did not pass -4. Does that make sense? So if you use intermediate value theorem, you're gonna say, oh, no, that doesn't work. But what happened is, the thing is fail stress is the data is not continuous. What I mean by data is not continuous is, what if it's at 4.5? Maybe -4.5, I have slope of -10. Nobody ever say it's not. Can you assume any value you want to? Yes, technically, because the data is I forgot what the kind of data is called. There's a special term, is it concrete data or continuous data? But continuous is like a water bottle has a certain height, it's continuous rise up.
So you're saying that there is like loopholes in IVT?
Yeah, so there is not enough evidence to prove because we only have data at 5 and -3, but we don't have the data at 5.5, 4.5, 4.2. There's a lot of data can happen there that we're not including. But what's nice about Min Value Theorem is this, though. Min Value Theorem is only in a 2 piece of data, right? So the piece of data is probably a camera outside this building, and I have see the evidence that he come in a room at 3 o'clock, and he left outside at 4 o'clock. So even if he didn't commit the murder, he might still saw what happened. 100% more likely to see what happened because you have camera phone for each side of the room, right? And you see him exit and in, right? So there's enough evidence that he's in the same building at that particular time. So what happened is, then what you're going to do is, how do I see that evidence matching up? You take those 2 endpoint data because mean value data is care about the endpoint, and then use the 10 and 2, right? So it's going to be g of -5 minus g of -3 over -5 minus 3. And then that's equal to -2 on the bottom. And then on top, I think it's 10 minus 2. So here is 10 and here's 2. So 10 minus 2 is equal to 8. A over -2, that's equal to -4. So G prime C is equal to -4. Because there's 2 endpoint data, it's already told you is a -4 slope. If it's a continuous function differentiable, it must means there is a slope is also equal to -4. It doesn't matter what happened because we have 2 endpoint data, but the mean value theorem is based on the 2 endpoints. To finding a slope of 2 endpoints called secant slope, somewhere along the line there is a tangent slope is equal to the secant slope.
So how do you go about justifying that?
So how do you justify? You do need to say G is a differentiable function. Differentiable functions, right? Therefore, it's continuous. Therefore, remember, Min Value Theorem says, therefore, it's also continuous. And it's differentiable and continuous, therefore f prime C must equal to f of B minus f of A over B minus A. As long as the C is not in the endpoint, then f prime of C is equal to -4 according to the calculation. So MVT proof that, sorry, this is G prime of C is equal to -4 because we already did the calculation, and also condition is also there. Differentiable and continuous. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's how do you answer this part. That's okay. Now here's the thing. If it involves a theorem on FRQ, especially, more likely it's gonna be MVT and IVT. It's probably gonna be 70% of the time it's gonna be mean value theorem, or 60% of the time it's gonna be mean value theorem. And there's 20% of the time it's gonna be intermediate value theorem. Right? Intermediate value theorem does not need to be differentiable, just need to be continuous. And there is endpoints below something, and there is an endpoint above something. So it must go through something in the middle here. If I take a picture here, if I take a picture here, the soda must go through the label. Somehow or another, if I dump it or drink it. There's no way I just drink the middle part and leave the top part and bottom part alone, because that will be not continuous. Water is continuous. And that's why they call it continuous data. Is like rainfall is continuous data. If you take statistic, you know.
That's mean value theorem.
Yeah, that's no. If it go through a certain level, then that's intermediate value theorem. Mean value theorem is you have a slope between those 2 points, and you will find the point in the middle that had the same slope.
Is that the only rule for mean value theorem?
Yeah, f prime c equal to fb minus fa over b minus a. Also, another way to memorize mean value theorem is the derivative is equal to average rate of change. So derivative f prime c equal to average rate of change, fb minus fa over b minus a. That's how I remember mean value theorem. Does that make sense? So it's not extra memorization because you understand what's average rate of change. You understand the derivative. So f prime c is equal to fb minus fa over b minus a. But the b and a cannot be endpoint. So if you find a c is at an endpoint, that should be excluded. That's the thing about mean value theorem.